everyone, I'm Brian with AC Products USA. Today, by popular demand, we've had many contractors and installers ask us about maybe a step-by-step or just some tips on installing our Delta mini splits. We carry the Delta line here in Fort Myers, Florida, and there are two models that we carry specifically. We got the 16 SEER Venus series, and we got the 19 SEER Luna series. We also carry other brands like Daisuke, but right now we're going to focus on the Delta units. Today we're going to focus on a couple of things. First thing you need to know is you need to plan your installation. When I say plan your installation, do you know where the unit's going to be located? Do you need to hang it off of a wall? Where's your indoor unit going to go? Where's your electrical? Do you need to meet any particular codes? For example, in some areas where we can mount the units on concrete, you have to elevate the unit and install these elevation pads to get the unit off the ground. In some other places, due to flood zones and stuff like that, you have to install a wall bracket. This wall bracket is designed to go under the unit and mount it at whatever height you need to meet those codes in that particular area. Next most important thing is, are you qualified to install this unit? Are you comfortable? You're gonna have to deal with electrical. So can you deal with the electrical? Do you have the right tools? Do you have the right electrical meters? Can you do the electrical work? You're gonna have to deal with refrigerants. Can you do the refrigerant? Can you apply the vacuum? And can you do everything safely and properly? If you can do all these things, then let's get started on the installation, and let me go through a couple more tips. Next thing is, as you get ready to install the unit, there's things to consider. Are you going to be coating the unit? You can send that out to get it coated, but you need to make sure you account for that time. Are you going to use one of our products like AC Protec or Action HVAC&R? You can coat just the PC boards, which is usually a very vulnerable part of the unit, or you can coat the whole unit, depending on what works for you. But do you have the right wiring? There's always communication wiring that goes between the indoor and the outdoor unit. That has to be the right gauge. That wire is going to be 14/4, 14 gauge stranded wire. Don't get 12, don't get 16, make sure you get 14 gauge. Then, do you have an electrical whip that's the proper size to take the power from your disconnect to the unit? Do you have a disconnect? Let me show you some of the tools that you're normally going to need on these installations. You're going to need a high quality electrical meter. When you have one of these, you are going to make sure that you got your voltages correct and you're checking things as you go. Do you have a proper adapter to adapt your refrigerant lines to your vacuum lines on the HVAC equipment? If you're going to be on an inside wall, do you have a pump to pump out the condensation? Have you planned on where your condensation is going to go? All these are things you got to consider. One of the very important things that has to be done during the installation is you have to pull a vacuum. Now, there are many kinds of vacuum pumps. I'm not going to focus on those right now because there's a lot of them out there. But you have to have a vacuum in order to bring the unit down to a negative micron setting at about 500 microns. Now, I use kind of an expensive digital gauge made by Fieldpiece. This is an S-Man 4. This has a digital display that'll show me when I've reached the proper vacuum. So, and last but not least, if you're installing the copper lines exposed on the outside, UV light is going to damage those. So you may want to install something like this Everwell line set cover. So now you're ready to start the installation. First thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure you unbox everything. Unbox your outdoor unit. Make sure everything that comes with it is there. They're going to come with a line set. They're going to come with a drain line. They're going to come with this is a section to go through a wall penetration. There's some putty in there to seal that. There's some tape that's designed to seal everything up. Some brands of equipment are going to come with wire, some don't, okay? You're gonna have an indoor unit. When you look at the indoor unit, you're gonna open it up, and inside this indoor unit, you're gonna find more instructions. You're gonna find the remote control. You're going to find things like your Wi-Fi module. Make sure you have all those important things aside before you start the installation. So when you get to the indoor unit, you're gonna have a packet. Got your owner's installation manual. You're gonna have your remote control manual, your actual remote control for the unit, a lot of other little install bits, and it's very important you don't lose this part. This is the Wi-Fi module. It kind of looks a little bit like a thumb drive, but this is what gets plugged into the unit to make sure that your Wi-Fi is working properly and that you can do all your proper installation and make sure that everything is working as it should. You have some barcodes that you scan that help you do all your setup. And just make sure that everything's in one piece. You're also going to find that your indoor unit comes with a mounting bracket attached. So this is the part that's going to attach to the wall. You're going to level this and put it in place, but this is your indoor unit. Okay. Once you decide you're going to start doing the installation, you have to remove the outside shell of the indoor unit, and that's easily done by removing the screws on the face, and there are a couple of clips. You're going to remove this face. You're going to be very careful with this piece. You don't want to put a lot of force on it because you could break one of the stepper motors. You'll notice on the mounting bracket that right here is the copper lines and your drain lines. These are the lines you're going to use to make your connections to the outdoor unit, okay? So these are compression fittings, and you have to make sure you do not over torque these lines. Okay. Now, one of the things that you're going to see in the manual is going to ask you to refer to this lid where it's going to have your wiring diagram. I want you to look really carefully in here. This unit is a 220 volt unit. You're going to have an L1 and an L2. That is your two hot lines from your 220 volts, and then you have a ground. One of the most important parts about the wiring on these units is that you keep the wires in order. So the only thing you need to worry about is coming from the house to your outdoor unit, two hots and a ground. The other four wires are your communication and power wires from the outdoor unit to the indoor unit. You're going to find those right here, and they're numbered very easily for you. You got number 1, number 2, and number 3. Now I told you there's 4 wires. I'll explain to you why there's a 4th wire. The 4th wire is a ground wire. You can ground that here, you can ground that here. But you have 3 wires that provide power and communication, and 1 for ground. Let's show you, we're going to connect that in front. One very important thing is the communication cable between your outdoor unit and your indoor unit. There's a specific kind of cable you're supposed to use. This is 14 gauge, 4 wire, stranded wire cable. Now, they come in lots of varieties. This particular one has a blue, red, green, and black. There's a variety that has a yellow, there's a variety that has a white in it. But the important part is you have 4 cables, and you're gonna color code those to the numbers on the inside and the outdoor unit. So what you're gonna do is you'll notice what we just talked earlier about. You have terminals 1, 2, and 3. Decide what you want. Maybe you want number 2, you want it to be red, and then blue for number 2, and black for number 3. That's fine, but always keep to a pattern. So 1, 2, and 3. So what you're gonna do is if you clicked red for number 1, you're gonna take number 1, and then you're gonna go to the indoor unit and connect it to number 1 right here. See how there's a number 1? You can't miss it. So you go 1 to 1. Then you go cable number 2 to terminal 2, and cable number 3 to terminal 3. Then you have your ground wire that we spoke about. That can be your green wire. And that's gonna go to you'll see the ground terminal symbol right there. And that's gonna go there. So you're gonna have 1, 2, 3 wires and a ground. Connections you're gonna have to do. You need main power to the outdoor unit, and then communication power between the outdoor and the indoor. Now, a lot of these covers are just there to protect your refrigerant valves. So some have to pull down, some pull out. Just don't use a lot of force. It'll just come out the way it's supposed to, okay? Now you're gonna have a high pressure and a low pressure line on here, and you got your valves you're gonna open and close to set the system up. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna connect your line set, and there's only one way to connect it. You have a small connection and you have a large connection. And these connections belong to each one of these individual lines for your high and your low side. The units get charged on the low side, and that's how you're going to check things out and make sure that you got a vacuum. So before these valves are ever open, you're going to make sure that your line set is connected at the outdoor unit, and then that line set is also be connected at the indoor unit. Now typically when you vacuum an HVAC system, you just take your 1/4 inch lines, hook it up to the valve, and pull a vacuum. However, you'll notice that most mini splits will not fit that thread. So you need to buy one of these little adapters. This is a 1/4 inch to 5/16 adapter. We carry them in stock all the time from Everwell. And this adapter is designed to fit your valve and then fit on the unit. And this way, you'll always pull the proper vacuum. Now once all your copper is seated, everything's sealed properly, you got this on, this is where the vacuum pump is going to come into play. You're going to set that vacuum pump. A lot of the times on the smaller systems, you can pull a vacuum down to 500 microns. Very easy, in just a matter of 15-20 minutes. Smaller, older vacuums, single stage vacuums will take a lot longer. But anywhere within about 1 hour's range, you're going to be able to have the system vacuum down to the proper range. Now, once you reach the proper vacuum, which is about 500 microns, always read your instructions to make sure what each manufacturer asks for. You're then going to let that sit. As long as it holds that vacuum for usually about 15 minutes, you're going to be in good shape. So once you've held that vacuum and you know you're good, you're going to go ahead and release that. You're going to open your valves and your system's ready to run.